Welcome back, folks. Hope all of you are doing well. We all know that at its peak, the Roman Empire was unstoppable. Nothing could stand against the might of their mighty war machine. Well, as your power grows, you are bound to make enemies. At that time, another empire was rising in the Mediterranean region. Carthage was getting nervous at the growing Roman might. You must have heard about Hannibal Barca. Well, all of it began with his father, and today we are going to talk about the first series of conflicts between the Roman Republic and Carthage. The conflict is popularly called the First Punic War. But before we get into the details of the war, let's talk about Carthage. According to tradition, the city of Carthage was founded by the Phoenicians of Tyre in 814 BCE. In Phoenician, the name means new town. The site of the city was chosen at a very strategic point. Carthage was in the center of the Gulf of Tunis. The location offered access to the Mediterranean and protected the city from any sort of violent storms. It soon became the center of the Phoenician trade network, which made it one of the richest cities in the entire Mediterranean region, and with wealth came power. So it was only a matter of time when the two great powers of the region, Rome and Carthage, went to war with each other. Initially, the relations between the two powers were peaceful. Peace treaties had been signed in 509 BCE, 348 BCE, 306 BCE, and 279 BCE. These treaties were an outline for the power-sharing agreement between the two empires. Each was given its respective sphere of influence. However, when Rome became too ambitious in taking over ancient Greece, the interests of Carthage were threatened, and the empire had to take action. The bone of contention was Sicily. Carthage had its eyes set on Sicily well before the time of the Romans. So when the Romans took over Egypt, Messana sought Roman protection against Carthage, and Hiram II, who was the ruler of Syracuse. The Romans took over Messana, and the act soured relations between the two Mediterranean powers. Messana had been conquered by Mamertines, a group of disreputable mercenaries from Campania in Italy. Thus, they asked Carthage for help, who obliged, and established a garrison in the city, kicking out the mercenary army. But the people of Messana saw the Romans as a powerful ally that would guarantee their freedom, so they removed the Carthaginian garrison and asked Rome for help. Rome soon dispatched the consul Appius Claudius with 2 legions to Messana. On hearing of this, Carthage allied itself with Syracuse and Acragas and set a fleet towards Messana. The removed garrison commander was crucified as a symbol of what was to come for the city of Messana. When the fleet from Carthage arrived, they joined powers with Syracuse and laid siege to Messana. The Carthaginian commander wanted to intercept the Romans, and he even sent a warning to Appius Claudius that not one Roman would even be able to wash his face in the sea. Seeing the situation, the Roman consul at Messana offered peace, but Carthage rejected the offer. The Romans were still able to power through. They not only broke the siege, but also defeated the allied armies of Syracuse and Carthage. Carthage was just reeling from the setback when a new Roman commander, Consul Manius Valerius, took over and marched 16,000 Roman troops to Syracuse. Hiram surrendered immediately, and in exchange for keeping his power allied with the Romans. Even the loss of an ally wasn't enough to deter Carthage, and when half of the Roman troops withdrew to Italy, the Carthaginians sent another fleet to warn Sicily. The First Punic War had officially begun. Soon, 4 legions led by L. Postumius Megillus and Q. Mamilius Vitalis laid siege to Acragas in 262 BCE. When Carthage tried to come to defend its ally, they were defeated, and the city was sacked. This loss motivated other Sicilian city-states, like Segesta, to join the Roman cause. Following this loss, small battles continued to occur without any decisive results. Then, Acragas was once again sacked, and 50,000 of its inhabitants were enslaved. Despite these victories, Rome could not stem the influence of Carthage in this region, and thus it became clear that for a decisive victory, Rome would need a strong naval force that was capable enough to hand them the entire island of Sicily. All of us know about the crazy work ethic of the Romans, and by the spring of 260 BCE, Rome had managed to build a fleet of 20 triremes and 100 quinquireme warships in just 60 days. The quinquireme warships had 3 banks of rowers and were the advanced version of triremes. The problem for Rome was that Romans had little to no knowledge about naval warfare and had just copied designs from the Carthaginian ships they had captured earlier in the fight. Even their rowers were trained on special benches on land while the ships were being made. But where the Romans lacked in experience, they made up for it by innovation. They added the corvus to their ships. The corvus was a rotating platform with a gate-holding spike. This bridge was 11 meters long and could be lowered onto enemy ships to allow the specialized Roman infantry units to board them. If the Romans were able to board enemy ships quickly, then the battle would be over far longer than expected. This is exactly what happened as the Roman fleet of 150 ships led by Duilius defeated the 135-ship-strong Carthaginian fleet at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BCE. Duilius was honored by being awarded a Roman triumph, the first in Rome's history for a naval victory. Over the next 2 years, the Romans continued to raid Corsica and Sardinia and won another naval battle at Sulcus in 258 BCE, but the war still hung in the balance. After the defeat at Sulcus, Carthaginians crucified their commander, but they still had no strategy to counter the Roman offensive. Finally, Consul Marcus Regulus Atilius took command of 4 legions and landed at Clupea. The war had finally reached Carthaginian soil. Till now, the Romans had the upper hand, but they got overconfident and decided to recall half of their army. This still left Regulus with around 15,000 infantry and 500 cavalry, but the move would later turn out to be folly. Even with his depleted militia, Regulus won a comprehensive land battle south of Tunis. The rough terrain proved useful for the Romans, as the Carthaginian war elephants could not properly maneuver, and even the command of 3 commanders wasn't enough to turn the tide of the battle in favor of Carthage. In 255 BCE, peace talks began, but they too failed as the Roman commanders' demands proved to be too excessive. Among other things, Carthage was asked to entirely give up Sicily. However, despite earlier losses, the tide of the war soon turned in favor of Carthage. Carthage hired the mercenary Spartan commander Xanthippus to reorganize their army. So he prepared an army of 12,000 infantry and 4,000 cavalry and marched to face the Romans. Xanthippus was a brilliant commander, and with the combined might of his cavalry and 100 war elephants, he totally decimated the Romans and captured Regulus. 12,000 Romans were killed compared to only 800 Carthaginians. It was a huge victory for Carthage. The 2,000 Romans that did escape were picked up by a newly dispatched fleet at Clupea, but on the return journey, the entire fleet was destroyed in a storm. Almost 100,000 people drowned. It is considered to be one of the greatest disasters in naval history. The overconfidence of the Romans led them to disaster. If half the army had not been recalled and the Libyan rebellion supported, then the war would have ended in 255 BCE. Instead, the victory emboldened Carthage to continue its campaign against the Romans. With the defeat in Africa still fresh in their mind, the Romans decided to return to familiar ground, and in 254 BCE, the Romans took control of Panormus in Sicily. Out of the 70,000 population, whoever could pay 200 drachmas was given freedom, while the rest were enslaved. On the other side, Carthaginians sacked and burned Acragas, but it was a hollow victory, as they were now left with a very narrow coastal strip. But the weather gods were on the side of Carthage. A 150-ship-strong Roman fleet under C. Sempronius was caught in a storm, and thousands lost their lives. The fleet was returning from a raid in North Africa. It seems the innovation of the Romans bit them in the foot. It can be safely assumed that the added weight of the corvus may have made the ships heavier, which made navigation extremely difficult in a storm. Interestingly, the invention has not been discussed anywhere in history after these repeated disasters. The war subsided for a while as Carthage concentrated at home and strengthened its control of its African territories. After the affairs were settled, Carthage once again set its sights on Sicily, and another army under Hasdrubal was dispatched to the island in 251 BCE. The expedition proved to be a failure, as the Roman legions defeated the Carthaginian army under consul Lucius Caecilius Metellus. The Roman commander even managed to capture the Carthaginian war elephants, and he shipped them to Rome to entertain the people during his victory parade. Regulus, now free, led an army with fellow consul L. Manius Volso and laid siege to the city of Lilybaeum. The lengthy siege proved to be unsuccessful as the Carthaginian fortress cities refused to surrender. As the war continued, the Romans continued to dominate on land while the Carthaginians controlled the seas. In 249 BCE, a Carthaginian fleet led by Adherbal defeated the Roman navy at Trapani, capturing 93 out of 120 enemy ships. P. Claudius Pulcher, the Roman commander, was highly unpopular in his camp and could be considered a bit on the lower end of the smartness index, as he threw his sacred chickens in the sea after they had refused to provide good omens for the battle. The sea was really not friendly for the Romans, as sometime later, around 800 supply ships were once again the target of a storm in the Bay of Gela. However, this setback did not break their spirit, and they took control of Eryx. But the war had finally begun to take its toll on both sides. They simply did not have the funds to keep their armies marshaled. Carthage was even forced to ask Ptolemy II to send them 2,000 talents to help with the war effort, but Egypt had no interest in a foreign war. But once again, the fates favored Carthage, as Hamilcar Barca, father of Hannibal Barca, was given command of the Carthaginian fleet. Hamilcar first raided the Italian coast in 247 in search of war booty so he could pay his mercenaries, and then he landed on Sicily near Panramus. This was an ideal position, as he could harass the rear of the Roman forces who were then besieging Drepana and Lilybaeum, the last two Carthaginian strongholds in Sicily. Hamilcar used lightning-quick guerrilla tactics, as Carthage could no longer afford a large army. Despite this, he managed to capture Eryx, which became his base of operations. He continued to be a nuisance for the Romans, but he could not make a significant impact without a proper force under his command. Hanno the Great proved more useful for Carthage, as his conquests in Libya increased the source of tax revenue for a severely depleted treasury. Finally, in 242 BCE, a brand new Roman fleet was commissioned and given under the command of consul Gaius Lutatius Catulus. The fleet had been paid for by rich Roman citizens who wanted to support the war effort. Lutatius once again laid siege to Drepana. In 241 BCE, Carthage sent a fleet under Hanno to relieve the city, but instead, the Carthaginians were defeated by the Romans, who captured 50 ships, sank the rest, and captured around 10,000 prisoners. It wasn't a huge loss to Carthage, but the already financially strained empire was forced to seek peace terms. Carthage was made to leave Sicily, and they were forced to pay 3,200 talents of silver to Rome in reparations over the next 10 years. Sicily became Rome's first foreign province, and soon Corsica and Sardinia would come into Roman hands, while the Carthaginians faced revolts in Libya. However, a generation later, Hannibal Barca would return to Rome in a series of battles known as the Second Punic War. So that's about it for today, folks. Hope you liked the video. If you already haven't, then hit the like button. If you like watching videos from history, then subscribe to our channel to receive similarly amazing content directly to your feeds. Oh, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to remain updated about all our future videos. Goodbye, and take care.